Welcome or welcome back. Today I will be talking about the most gruesome and unfair murder that I know of. Disclaimer. The topics in today's video are not for the lighthearted. In addition, all events that will be discussed actually transpired. These are real events. The murder in question today is the murder of Junko Furuta. Born in January 8th, 1971, she was born in the city of Misato. From early childhood, she was described as a bright, popular, and friendly girl. After graduating from high school in the next 4 months, she would start working for a company in April of 1989. However, on November 25th, 1988, around 8:30 p.m., she was cycling home after a part-time job, looking forward to watching the last episode of her favorite TV drama. She was like any other person, just living her life and about to start her life outside of the home. But that's when everything changed. And another disclaimer. I will not be addressing any of the perpetrators by their real names, simply by Teen A, B, C, and D. This is out of respect for Junko and the parents of the victims. Teen A was the leader of the group of four, born on April 1970 as the first son of his parents. He started learning judo at a very young age and started showing aggressive nature early on in primary school. The United States equivalence would be elementary school. He would start becoming violent with his family in middle school. He joined a motorcycle gang and the Yakuza. Teen B, born in May 1971. Promising sports career, but would eventually have an injury that would cause him to not be able to participate in any more future events. This injury would lead him into a spiral of nothingness. He had no prior criminal records. Teen C, born in 1972. In primary school, he started threatening people, shoplifting, engaged in extreme verbal and physical abuse of others. His parents were frequently gone a lot due to work-related matters. This would lead Teen C and his brother to use their home as a hoodlum hangout of sorts. Teen D, an early dropout. His father died at a very young age, and this would eventually cause him to domestically abuse his sister and his mother. In June 1987 and March 1988, he was filed for minor criminal offenses. All of them had formerly attended the same middle high school. The four of them would use Teen C's house as a hangout of sorts due to his parental situation, which meant that no parents would be there and no supervision. According to some of their classmates, Teen A developed somewhat of a crush on Furuta and was enraged when she had turned him down. On the evening of the 25th of November, 1988, Teen A and C were wandering about on separate mopeds in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, with the purpose of snatching bags from or raping young women, an activity which they partook in frequently. Spotting Junko cycling home at around 8:30 p.m., A told Teen C to kick that woman. Teen C did so and left the scene immediately. Junko fell from her bike. This would then cause Teen A to approach her and say, "That one's crazy. I've been threatened by him with a knife a short time ago. You may still be in danger. Let me walk you home." This was initially to gain Junko's trust. Teen A would then lure her into a nearby warehouse where he dropped his nice guy pretense and would rape her. He would then talk about his ties to the Yakuza and how she had better not scream or report him to the police, as he knew where her parents had lived. From the hotel, Teen A rang Teen C's home, their usual hangout, and told Teen B that he had succeeded in raping the girl. Teen B asked him to keep her, and around midnight on the 26th of November, Teen A, with Junko, Teen B, and Teen C would meet Teen D in a park. After a long talk between Teen A and B, they decided to abduct and imprison her, and told her they would get the Yakuza to kill her family if she ever tried to escape. She was then taken to Teen C's house in Ayasa district of Adachi, Tokyo. November 27th, Furuta's parents would contact the police, yet all searches went without anything being found. During this time, there would be multiple men over to engage in different acts with Furuta. She would be raped a total of 400 times in her captivity by over 100 different men, none of which reported anything to the authorities. I believe that this shows a dark side of humans, when 100 men saw something, and not a single one of them would go on to report anything. Sometimes the true nature of humans is really scary. Fast forward to December, she would find an opportunity when all of them were asleep to call the police, only to be caught by Teen A. Angered by her act, they started to torture her. She was repeatedly punched, struck by heavy objects, skin burned with cigarette lighters. They also stopped feeding her. Due to both external and internal injuries and malnutrition, she could hardly walk and had to crawl downstairs to the bathroom. Her injuries were so bad, she purportedly begged them to just kill her and put her out of her misery. The abuse and brutality would last for many days in late December. The brutality of the attacks changed Junko's appearance completely. Her badly beaten face was so swollen that her cheeks were as high as her nose. Her burned and infected skin produced a bodily fluid with a bad smell. At around 12:30 a.m. on the 27th of December, 1988, the four would abduct a 19-year-old woman on her way home, in the same manner as Junko. And on the fateful day of January 4th, in the early hours after Teen A and B had both lost badly in a game of mahjong, still angry, once he got to C's house, they would let all their anger out on Junko. She was punched, kicked. The four even placed lit candles and wax on her eyes. She hardly responded. They made sure she stood, repeatedly kicking her back down. Defenseless Junko fell onto a stereo and collapsed. She started in fits of convulsion. The gang knew that Junko might die, but the vicious onslaught did not stop. She bled from her nose, mouth. Bloody pus emerged from her burns. Blood was spattered all over the room, but reluctant to get blood on their fists, all teens covered their hands with plastic bags taped around the wrist and continued punching, up to 20 or 30 times each. They took turns punching Junko in the face, stomach, thighs, then took a big metal workout ball and slammed it into her multiple times. Teen A repeatedly poured lighter fluid on her thighs and set it ablaze. Junko initially gestured as if trying to put it out, but eventually became unreactive. The attack is said to have lasted anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. She is speculated to have died during or even hours after the abuse. That would also make her total time tortured and raped 44 days. Many people refer to these 44 days as 44 days in hell. Teen A found the videotape of the episode and placed it in her travel bag. As he later explained, it was not out of pity, but because he did not want her to return as a ghost and haunt him. Even in this last twisted sense of humanity, it was all but for selfish gain. Her body would eventually be found encased in an oil drum. The body was only found after investigators arrested Teen A and B for the rape and kidnapping of a 19-year-old, where Teen A mistakenly would plead guilty to a murder after a misunderstanding by the police officers, as he had thought that Teen B had already admitted to the murder. The grave injustice and horrifying situation doesn't end here. The real injustice and the real horrifying situation is the sentencing. Teen A would suffer only 20 years in prison. Teen B, only 5. Teen C, only 5. And Teen D would suffer only 8 years in juvenile detention. The teens would not go to jail for murder, even when it was fully applicable. The teens would also not go for life, though it was fully applicable. Teen C's brother, who was also fully complicit in crimes, were never arrested, nor were Teen C's parents, who were purportedly aware of the situation. The over 100 perpetrators of rape, though many identities were unknown, none of them have ever faced punishment for the torture they all played a part in. Even 3 of the 4 teens were released on parole only years after serving, not living out the full sentence. This concludes one of the most horrifying murders to have ever happened. The 44 days in hell that Junko faced were not only inhumane, but inconceivable that a group of humans could do such a thing. However, this act was not punished accordingly. Many would go on to commit future sexual crimes and brag about the murder that they committed and all the abuse that they inflicted. There was no degree of remorse. This crime was done. But at the end of the day, there was no regret. They reoffended, individual A going so far as to attempt murder again in 2018. There was no proper apology to the family. The family was left hopeless, without any recourse to raise the punishment, making this one of the biggest horrors and mistakes that the legal system in Japan had ever faced. Junko's funeral was held on April 2nd, 1989. Though nothing could atone for the tragedy that occurred on that fateful day and those long 44 days of torture, I will do the best I can do and try and ensure that it will never happen again. I urge you to as well. If you see something, remember, say something. Keep your eyes open. Many things happen in plain sight. And her family, I wish for them nothing but the best. In the face of this horrific accident, I can only offer my deepest condolences, even so long after the fact. May her soul finally rest in peace. That concludes the video about something that I would call the most gruesome murder, and simultaneously, the biggest mistake in juvenile punishment of all times. Have a good day or night. Know that there are people there for you. Love you guys, and goodbye.